we are Group 4. Michigan State Fairgrounds is our site. I'm Corey Gustavus.
I'm Christine Costa.
I'm Kyle Woods.
Brian Baum.
Jay and
Chris Mohan.
So for our site analysis, we'll breeze through it. Our site is located just east of Woodward and south of 8 Mile Road. The site consists of 164 acres. And a little history. This was the first state fair in U.S. history. And in 1921, the state actually acquired the site.
This is just the brief demographics of the surrounding areas that we took from Birmingham, Ferndale, Royal Oak, Southfield, Detroit, and Highland Park. And it starts off pretty much at the beginning of the early 1900s and goes up to present day, which is right in the middle here. And then it shows the projected totals for each city also.
Past proposals, there's been a lot on this site, and it's kind of a politically charged site, and we took all that into consideration. You heard the big spiel last time, so I don't want to go over it too much. There's been racetracks, there's been community groups to fight the racetrack, there's been parks, there's been farms, there's been movie studios, so it's all been proposed, and so far nothing's happened.
And looking at the Detroit area, our site is located here in the Michigan State Fairgrounds, and one of the proposals for the site was a farm. So we wanted to look at farms and markets in the area, and there really aren't any near our site. We have Eastern Market way down here, the Royal Oak Farmers Market at the top, and then the only two quality grocery stores near our site are Ferndale Foods and Mike's Fresh Market. And this is showing the retail competition of the area. So we have the 5 mile radius of our site. Here's our site in the middle, and the 10 mile. And here are some suggested farm areas. There's so much vacant land. Farms are being proposed as a way to deal with Detroit's vacant land. So the suggested farms are large-scale production for foods.
These were suggested to City of Detroit and Detroit News.
And we looked at existing sports facilities because there are sports facilities on our site. Hockey, something we want to look at.
So for our proposal, we're proposing to purchase the site and run the state fair for profit as a private owner in the model of the Texas State Fair, which makes upwards of about $5 million per year. We're proposing to renovate some existing buildings, bring them up to code to attract vendors and visitors to the site. We're proposing leasing 40 acres of farmland to Hertz Farms to grow crops and also run a fresh produce market 7 days a week. We're also proposing a weekend farmers market in the larger buildings of the State Fair to actually use those buildings throughout the year. That would be on weekends that would compete with Eastern Market and Royal Oak Farmers Market. We would get tenant income from existing tenants that are currently there, and also try to draw new tenants with 3 new sports domes to get leagues going and get revenue from that. We're hoping to get constant traffic on the site with all these new developments and potential real estate profits. We may be able to sell small portions of the site along 8 Mile and Woodward for retail that would go along with our site of supporting a healthy Detroit through like a gym or some sort of thing there.
This is the proposed conceptual master plan for our site that will last throughout the year. The blue buildings are the current buildings on the site that we are going to keep and re-renovate for the Joe Dumars and the hockey arena and some other buildings. This will be the farmers market that will be open all year round. Is the purple. The yellow represents the sports domes in the area that they'll take up, and which will also involve the indoor driving range and soccer fields and stuff like that. We have a transportation stop that we're going to bring in for the light rail system that was or is being proposed right now. And then on the right-hand side, we also add in softball fields, soccer fields, tennis courts, and basketball courts. And this is just a 3D view of what it looks like right now, or what would be proposed. This is pretty much the same thing, except for this is for when the state fair actually comes in. We will be using some current buildings that we're re-renovating for the actual state fair so that they can have shows and whatnot. We also have, in the parking lot over here with takeout, we're going to put in food for the booth. Also for retail, people can come and sell whatever the crafts that they make. And then down here, we saved the spot for outdoor events and attractions that they may need space for like rides and attractions.
We did a brief cost analysis of the proposal. Obviously, the major expense is the purchase of the land. You can adjust it for the decline value, looking at around $30 million just for that alone. Then additional expenses for parking, building renovations, the cost of the sports domes, softball fields, site maintenance, and estimated property tax from what we've been able to find. We also looked at the revenue for these different facilities that we're putting on the site based on what other businesses we found have made profit on. And the outcome ultimately is total cost of the development is around $58 million, including the land and annual expense. The net potential income, we've found around $7 million. That would fluctuate up and down again depending on market and actual returns. But ultimately, for a payback on this sort of investment, you'd be looking at in the range of 10 years, optimistically, for it to turn a profit. Okay. So ultimately, from the cost of our property, cost analysis shows the venture would not be profitable by purchasing the property and paying taxes to the city of Detroit at the standard rate. To be feasible, the property would have to be significantly discounted as an incentive, as well as tax incentives from the government as well. In light of the past political and governmental issues with the site, it's not a probable circumstance to not recommend that this project be taken on with the expectation of profit.
You're suggesting that the property be used as it has been used, basically.
Enhance to basically use what's there and enhance it to be a healthy lifestyle, community supporting area with adding grocery and food and produce and a lot more sports and indoor and outdoor activities, so it can be used year-round for sports.
How do you propose doing that? Are you going to buy the land?
Yes.
You buy the land for $58 million? Is that the number you had up there?
That's
The land was $29 million.
Huh?
The land is $29 million.
The 29 million. What
Yeah.
was the 30 million? That was
The land.
renovations. Was that?
Renovations, additional
Renovations.
structures, operating costs,
All right,
everything
so
else.
you start with $29 million, and it needs a lot of work. In bad shape.
yeah.
So, how are you going to come out on that?
Probably.
How are you going to make money on that?
But that's kind of where this conclusion. That's kind of where this conclusion came from.
Again.
The conclusion that we came to. It's more. It would be more of a.
You're not going to make money.
Philanthropic endeavor.
We're broke.
Yeah.
They're recommending that you not take on the
We don't recommend it to you as the developer.
They don't recommend it.
And I like that conclusion. You went through the analysis. Let's assume the city came to you and asked for some ideas.
Yeah.
And then you came to them with all of these ideas and said it's not going to work because it's not profitable. And you're a developer, okay? You're willing to walk away from this project and say it's just not right in terms of the uses and the return for us. So at this point in time, we're not interested, and there's no harm in doing that. I mean, we do that with 99% of the proposals that come to us. So I think that's a very valid conclusion.
I'm wondering if there's another calculation that you could have made, though. How much could you afford to pay for the land?
That's the question.
Well, I said they use this
Basically,
guy.
But I mean, but what would it take for you to make a reasonable profit? I mean,
what if they leased this to you for $1 a year?
exactly.
All right. What if they did? Now, could you make a profit at that?
There's a possibility, but then there's also the maintaining.
Now, wait a minute. You'd have a tax bill now,
Yes.
which you don't have if the state owns it. You'd have a big tax bill that you'd have to pay based on the imputed value.
What if the state became your partner and continued to own the property?
Well, I think they would. I think they might even do that.
No, but I mean,
Yeah.
if people were clamoring to develop this property, you'd have people busting down the doors to develop the property. The property is not worth $29 million because no one wants to buy it at that price.
No.
So there is a price. What if it's $1? Can you still not do it? And then,
Well, what we didn't see, there as example, there's hockey players playing hockey there, and they do have a certain amount of net revenue there.
Yeah, they have to do
And we didn't see an analysis. Maybe you don't have the information, but we should have seen an analysis on what income they have there or could have there. That was the
We
point.
found out what they do, what tenants they do have, but we couldn't come across the information of what that income was that they were getting. But we listed them on here. I don't know if we can go back.
We have some estimates for what the different, like the sports domes, what their revenue would be. Potentially what like the equestrian center, how much money that would potentially bring in, golfing facilities, all those sort of things. So we do have some estimates of revenue. But ultimately, the total amount that you would make between the fair and those other uses puts you in a position where if you're paying for the land, you're looking at like a 7-year minimum return on investment. If the land was suddenly not an issue, that cuts your initial costs in half, potentially, and that might make it more feasible.
But there's also the
there's
political
tax issues.
issue of leasing the property from the state, and then you have to do with the state. Kind of like what happened with one of the proposals for the racetrack. It was a lease from the state for $25 million over however many years.
But
20 years.
But people may not object to this the way that they would object to a racetrack.
Yeah.
I mean, a racetrack creates all kinds of spin-off problems in the surrounding neighborhood that this one would not create. That a lot of the uses that you have are community uses, and that's probably why you have so much trouble making your pro forma work, is that you don't have anything that generates any kind of revenue to speak of.
No, there has to be the demand for those private sector uses that you're thinking about. And you have to assume that they did a demand study, which is something that Mr. Talbot and Billy talked about last time.
Yeah.
So based on the demand, these are the uses that may work. They don't seem to turn a profit. One thing that I really do like is that you used an analog of the Texas State Fair that showed that the State Fair will run properly. It can make a profit on its own. But as Mr. Talbot said, at that land cost, nothing's going to work. And if the city really wants something vibrant there, I think
the problem is what you got to put in to fix up the buildings in order to make them usable. I think that's probably
that, of course.
But if you throw off $7 million in revenue, it's on a gross basis 20%. That's not bad. So, but I'm not sure that revenue is there.
How are you paying for your improvements? So are you borrowing the money for the improvements, or do you have cash to do it with?
We have the cash.
You have the cash? What developers put in all their own cash?
We didn't.
I think,
No, but I mean, the cost of interest if you have to borrow the money isn't calculated into this, and it's a lot more than the cost.
well, I would still show a yield.
You're still going to show a yield, but you're going to have to show
Sure,
you're going to show more
question
expenses.
is can you produce $7 million worth of revenue?
That was at the
I
higher
don't
end of
think
our
that's
estimate.
possible without spending a lot of money. And some of these buildings aren't that usable. You know, we looked at it in terms of using it for movie theaters, movie studios, and we couldn't come up with a space necessary or make the buildings usable. So, and I don't know, some of those buildings are interesting. It'd be, I think, sort of a bad thing to tear them all down, but if you could come up with a different use, I think that would make sense. I think you'd have to tear them down and do probably housing or something. If the market were there, the market isn't there right now, but it could be in the future.
Yeah, just a couple of things I would have liked to have seen in this. One is the analysis of how much you could afford to pay, assuming revenue generation. That gives you actually negotiating with a public landowner who probably wants to dump the land anyway, and you can go make a counter proposal by saying, listen, this is all my yield. The other one is. There are a lot of plans. First of all, it looks like light rail transit is coming closer to being a reality on Woodward, at least up to New Center and maybe beyond. And to really look at the feasibility of transit-oriented development to a much greater extent. When I looked at Woodward, and when we talk about transit-oriented development, what's the biggest return on transit-oriented development? It's within the first 800 to 1,200 feet of the transit station. Your first 800 to 1,200 feet are parking lots, which yield no revenue for you. So I mean, you didn't look at it truly as a transit-oriented development. If you thought of transit and you thought maybe 10 years down the road, long-range master plan, what could it be? Could that use be different than what you're anticipating here? Because you're going after pretty low intensity uses for the site, and so I just wonder, could there be a different future? Could you have a land holding strategy for a while? Let's do some uses that are pretty expedient, and then when transit comes in, and we, if this and this happens, then we can take a look at it again. Almost, it's over 17 minutes. Any final words?
Real quick, I thought the timing was good. I was missing a goal up front, so you went right into the presentation, but you didn't really state your goals. So when you got to the conclusion, there was no relationship to confirm. I just sensed that a radical change was needed, and the proposal wasn't that radical. And then just to follow up on Glenn's point about proximity to the transit, I thought the community use for the parks, or the fields way in the back, there were some questions on that. If those were neighborhoods, or just access to the playfields way back there seems a little remote.
Thank you all.
I think the bottom line of this is their conclusion that it won't work. Probably right.
Yep. And that's okay.
Yeah. Doesn't work, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
But someday it might work. That's right. That's the bottom line.
Good work.
Someday.
Thank you.
Thank you.